So let's just review really quick, just up at the top here, what the big takeaway from last time was which quadrants these end up in, because you're very, 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 very restricted. So sine, cosecant, tangent, and cotangent. Those were the odd ones. Which quadrants did they land in? Good, 1 and 4. And then the even ones are cosine and secant, and they landed 1 and 2. So that's it. That's all you've got, which makes your world very, very small. All right. You don't have a whole lot of choices. You're going to draw your triangle in quadrant 1 if it's positive. And then whatever the other one is, 4 or 2, if it's negative. That should make sense because in quadrant 1, everything's positive. Okay, so if it's positive, quadrant 1, if it's negative, whatever the other one is. So look at this one. Do you see how that 1/2 is positive? And do you remember how arc sine means the same as sine with a little -1? Sine? Okay, thank you for heads nodding. So you're going to draw a triangle in quadrant 1. Instead of being given the angle and looking for the side, we have the side and we're looking for the angle. Your answer is the amount of rotation. Sine is the y value. So the 1/2 goes where the y value would go. What's the angle that goes across from that? Pi/6 is your answer. That one was in quadrant 1. Okay, so hold on. Okay. Now look at this one. Do you see how it's a -1? Instead of a triangle, we're going to get, did someone say square? You're never going to have a, okay. You're never going to have a square. Geez, let's not go crazy. Put the phone away. Square. That's a new one for me. Pentagon. No, it's going to be a triangle or a circle. All right, again, sine is the y value. So, hey, guys, using a word like up, down, left, or right, where is the y value -1? Down. Okay, so it's right here, 0, -1. Now, here's the thing. For arc sine or sine inverse, however you want to say that, it has to be quadrants 1 and 4. It's like these two don't exist. It's like there's a great big void there. So you can't say 3 pi over 2. You can't rotate all the way around to that. The farthest you can go is here and you hit a roadblock. You have to go backwards. It'll be negative pi over 2. You're going backwards 1/2 pi. You can't go forwards because as soon as you get to here, you're stuck. You can't go any further. So you have to go backwards to get there. Okay, we're going to practice. We have a whole page of problems. We're going to practice a bunch more. Do you see how this one's a -2? I threw that on there almost to kind of be silly. It's a unit circle. So you know how all your points are like 0, 1, and 1, 0? Can you get to -2? No, this is like a no solution kind of thing. It's not like within the range of possibilities. So you can put NA or a frowny face or something like that. That's nice, right? All right, this one's a 1, so I know I'm going to draw a circle. Bless you. Cosine is the x value. So using words like up, down, left, and right, where is the x value 1? To the right, that would be right here, 1, 0. Your answer is the amount of rotation. So if you're right there, how much did you rotate? Yeah, none. None pi. No pi. You do not have to put pi. I'll just be happier if you do. The reason why is because I want you to understand this is a rotation versus this 0 right here, which is a coordinate point. And I feel like if you don't put the pi, it's easy to mix those up with each other. That is my opinion. All right, cosine inverse. Oh, do you see how this one's negative? Not going to be quadrant 1. What's the other option for cosine inverse? 2. So your triangle, settle down, is going to be in quadrant 2. So if it's positive, it's in quadrant 1. If it's negative, it's wherever the other one is. So negative pi over 2, excuse me, negative square root of 2 over 2, can't talk, is your x value. that means that the other side is also square root of 2 over 2. And what does that mean your reference angle is? Pi over 4. But listen, we're not in quadrant 1 anymore. So the answer's not pi over 4. The answer is how much you rotated to get there. How far did we rotate to get here in quadrant 2? No, we went forward, so it's positive. 3 pi over 4. Good. So your answer is the amount of rotation.
So you got then you go 1/4, and you got half, and you get 3/4.
Okay. Now this one's a little tricky. Seeing the 1 makes everybody think that there's going to be a circle like we did for these two. See how this was a 1 and a -1? But this one's tangent. How do you get tangent values? It's y over x. Good. So, oh, say that louder. It's going to be what? Triangle. And what are the sides going to be? Why are they square root of 2 over 2? They make 1. Anything over itself is 1. So for tangent, you have to remember it's y over x. Anything over itself is 1. So what's this angle? Pi over 4. And if you're in quadrant 1, that just is your answer because you didn't rotate far enough for it to be anything else. If you're in quadrant 1, that just is your answer. Okay, let's calm down. All right, this one's arctangent and it's negative, so it can't be quadrant 1. What's the other option for tangent? 4. Okay, so it's going to be in quadrant 4. That's like half the battle right there. Now, your sides have to be square root of 3 over 2 and a half. So look, and I'm going to write this off to the side here just to show you. There's only 2 options. You can either have square root of 3 over 2 over a half or a half over square root of 3 over 2. If you get stuck, it's one or the other. All right. What does this one turn out to be? Yeah, just square root of 3, the over 1, so just square root of 3. This one, we did one like this in the warm-up. It's 1 over square root of 3, square root of 3 over 3, okay? These are the only 2 choices. So do you see how the problem we're doing right now is negative square root of 3? It's this, but with a negative in it, all right? So it's the square root of 3 over 2 over a half. So for tangent, that's y over x. Your square root of 3 over 2 has to go there, and your half has to go there. But if you get stuck, you have a 50-50 shot of guessing it the right way. Do you get what I'm saying? Because it's either that or flip them. There's only 2 options. So if you get stuck, it's one way or the other. All right, which one gets the negative? Good. Okay. What is your angle? What goes across from square root of 3 over 2? Pi over 3. Now your answer is not pi over 3 though, because it's how much you rotated to get there. And you can't go around forwards. It's like these quadrants don't exist. You have to go backwards. So it's negative pi over 3. Are you okay? Okay. Now, when I have secant or cosecant, what I do is flip them. What's your reciprocal of secant? Which function was secant flipped? Cosine. So I would rewrite that as cosine inverse of negative a half. Go ahead and write that and let that sink in. Do you see how I just flipped the negative 2? Because I don't like dealing with secant and cosecant. So I changed it back to sine or cosine, all right? So I changed it back to cosine inverse negative a half. Now that's negative, so it can't be in quadrant 1. It has to be 2. That's the other option for cosine. Cosine is x, so that negative a half goes down here. That means the other side, square root of 3 over 2. And then what's the angle that goes across from that? Pi over 3. But your answer is, did you say it 8 pi over 3? Your answer ain't pi over 3. It's how much you rotated to get there, which would be 2 pi over 3. Keep calm and know the unit circle. Do I have that up here somewhere? Oh, there it is. Keep calm and know the unit circle. All right, so same with this one. I'm going to flip it. What's your reciprocal for cosecant? Sine. So this is going to be sine inverse. Which one do you think this is? If you were to flip that, just like if you had to guess, based on the numbers that are in there, which are 3s and 2s, it's going to be square root of 3 over 2 if you flip that. I'm not going to go through flipping that. It turns into a total disaster. It's going to be square root of 3 over 2. The one with the square root of 3 in it. All right, that's positive. So what quadrant are we in? 1, which is great. Sine is the y value. Yeah, they're not all going to be really hard. I mean, there's going to be some easy ones and some hard ones. All right, what's the angle across from that? Pi over 3. And because you're in quadrant 1, that's your answer. If you're in quadrant 1, whatever you get, that's just your answer. Yes, we like quadrant 1. All right, for this one, it's positive. So we're in quadrant 1. Yeah, no, oh, I wouldn't bother for cotangent. Tangent is y over x. Cotangent is just x over y. So I would probably just leave that. It kind of is up to you though. The only ones I ever switch are secant and cosecant. That's my personal preference. So let me come back up here to what I wrote off to the side for square root of 3. Do you see how if you work that backwards, it's square root of 3 over 2 over a half? Yeah. Okay. Cotangent is x over y. So your square root of 3 over 2 goes here. Your 1/2 goes here. Again, if that's a struggle for you, first of all, congratulations, you're normal because that is hard. If you aren't sure, pick one and go with it. It's either that way or the other way. Like you have a 50-50 shot. All right, and then what's your angle across from a half? It's pi over 6. And because you're in quadrant 1, that's your answer. You only really have to worry about it if you're not in quadrant 1. Now, these ones aren't on the unit circle. Remember Pythagorean theorem? Okay, because these aren't on the unit circle. All right. I'm going to cover up this part that says sine. Do you see that? I'm just going to cover that up. We're going to start with what's inside. This is positive. So we're in quadrant 1. Tangent is what over what? Good. So 3 is y, 2 is x. And you have to do Pythagorean theorem to get the other side because it's not on the unit circle. So that would be 4 squared plus 9 squared equals c squared, or whatever you want to call it. Would that be 16 plus 81? Oh, 2 squared. Oh, I can't brain today. I did it in my head already. There we go. So 4 plus 9 is 13, square root of 13. I kind of felt like those numbers were a little bit too big. I was like, wait. All right, are we good to there? All right, that is your work. Now we're going to do sine of that triangle. I would at least like this first step. Okay. Now we're going to do sine of that. How do you get sine? If it's on the unit circle, it's just the y value. Oh, it's good. Opposite over hypotenuse. The reason why you can just say it's the y value if you're on the unit circle is because the hypotenuse is 1. That's why we get to ignore that. But it's going to be opposite over hypotenuse. It'll be 3 over square root of 13, which would be 3 square root of 13 over 13. So if it's not on the unit circle, basically back to like geometry class. All right, so for 12, I'm going to cover up tangent. Just pretend it's not there for a second. This is negative, so we're not in quadrant 1. What's the other option for cosine inverse? 2. Draw your triangle in quadrant 2. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So 5 is your adjacent, 13 is your hypotenuse. Which one gets the negative? Good. The hypotenuse is never negative. Now, if you remember, we won't have to do the Pythagorean theorem for this one because this is one of your locker combinations. 12. Good. 5, 12, 13. If you don't remember that, it's totally fine. You can just do Pythagorean theorem. But if you remember it, it saves you some work. All right. Hey, look it. Are you looking? I'm going to take my finger back off of this. And we're going to do tangent of this triangle. This is like your work. Now we're going to do tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So it'll be 12 over -5. Opposite over adjacent, so 12 over -5. Now these last two, instead of having an actual number in there, it's just u. Okay, so it's going to look more complicated because we don't have an actual number, but it's the same thing we just did. I'm going to cover up the sign, see how that's gone? Now, if you don't know what this is, we're going to assume it's positive, so you can just draw this in the first quadrant. And it's really u over 1, because you need a ratio. It has to be something over something else. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the u goes there, and the 1 goes there. Opposite over adjacent. And then you're going to do Pythagorean theorem to get the other side. It would be 1 squared plus u squared equals c squared. And I get that it looks like we're jamming every letter of the alphabet into there. You'll be okay. Now, what is 1 squared? 1, u squared is just u squared. And to get c by itself, you would square root to get rid of the squared. So it's square root of 1 plus u squared. Don't discriminate. That's a great answer. That's just what it came out to. That is your quote unquote work. Now I'm going to take my finger back off of the problem. We're doing sine of that. Sine is what over what? Good. It would be u over, this is going to be messy here, the big square root, opposite over hypotenuse. And unfortunately, you have to rationalize that. So it will be u square root of that stuff over that stuff. It's not that hard. It's just a little bit of rewriting. Bless you. And we'll try it one more time. I think this one's not as bad. I don't remember what it comes out to, though. All right, I'm going to cover up tangent. Look it. I just covered it up. We're going to draw our triangle in quadrant 1. I don't know what u is, so we're just going to assume it's positive. Sounds like I don't have good grammar. I don't know what u is. Now it's really u over 1 and cosine. How do you do cosine? It's what over what? Good. Nicely remembered. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Can you guys just focus so we finish the problem? So adjacent over hypotenuse. U goes here, 1 goes there. Now I have to find the other side. Do you want me to call it a? Okay. So it would be a squared plus u squared equals 1 squared, which is going to just be 1. And how would you get a by itself? I want a by itself. Yep, minus the u squared over. So 1 minus u squared. 1 squared is just 1. And then your last step, you would square root all that. Just don't discriminate. Whatever it comes out to is whatever it comes out to. Now that's like your work. I'm going to take my finger back off the problem. Oh, I did. I just wrote it right there. And now we're going to do tangent. So how do you do tangent of your triangle? Y over x, or opposite over adjacent. So it's going to be square root of 1 minus u squared over u. The reason this one turned out a little bit nicer than this one is because why? Yeah, the square root's on the top, so you don't have to do anything else to it.